In this presentation, you will learn how to present a research proposal. A research proposal is an indispensable part of research. It lays out the trajectory which the researcher intends to follow and provides a brief, convincing stand on the importance of the research. The proposal should therefore explain what the researcher plans to do, how he intends to take it forward, and a justification on why the research and subsequently methodology is being carried out. Good research proposals both give an overview of the project and a well-informed discussion of the nuts and bolts of the proposed research. Let us look at some of the definitions of research proposal. A research proposal is often referred to as the outline or blueprint that is prepared before the actual research begins. A well thought of research proposal is significant in a number of ways. It allows the researcher to work in a planned and systematic manner. It provides a base for the evaluation of the project. It introduces the project and offers a background on the area of study. It clarifies the stand of the researcher and what they aim to accomplish with the research. The research proposal is vital, especially when applying for funding or grants. It must be well articulated so as to convince the committee on why the funding or grant should be allotted to the researcher. According to Carol Ellison, a research proposal should identify your topic of research, present a working thesis, explain the method of conducting your research, present a hypothesis and the expected or anticipated result. Hence, with a research proposal, the researcher should be able to justify and defend several key questions, such as what the researcher is trying to find out and what are the research questions that he or she is trying to answer. Additionally, the proposal should also cover the significance or relevance of conducting the particular study and how it will add or refine the existing body of knowledge. Punch further writes, in developing effective research proposals, the proposal itself needs to be presented as an argument. Seeing it as an argument means showing its line of reasoning, its internal consistency, and the interrelatedness of its different parts. It means making sure that the different parts fit together and showing how the research will be a piece of disciplined inquiry. As an argument, the proposal should show the logic behind the proposed study rather than simply describing the study. In doing so, it should answer the question of why this approach, method, and design have been chosen for the study. The format of a research proposal may differ from one project to another. Yet, there are several crucial components to a research proposal. These are title of the research, statement of problem, aims and objectives, introduction and background, significance, review of literature, research methodology, budget, time frame, anticipated problems, ethical concerns, proposed outcome, bibliography. The researcher must follow the format that is given by their respective organization or guide when submitting a proposal. Care must also be taken to ensure that it doesn't hold any theoretical inconsistencies, grammatical errors, or the likes. The research proposal may be modified several times according to the feedback provided. However, it must always be well constructed and properly presented. Components of the research proposal. Title. The title of the research proposal will be the first thing on the document and hence must make an impact with the committee or the audience. It must reflect on what the study aims to achieve and must be framed using appropriate terms. The title should focus on the relevant areas of the research and must be appealing enough to garner the attention of the committee and the larger audience to the rest of the research. Several times, if the research question itself is concise enough, it may be used as the title and could be additionally supported by a subtitle which throws light into the specific focus of the research. Statement of the problem. Once the researcher has figured out the research question which he or she chooses to focus on, it is necessary that they frame it appropriately. The statement could be declarative or may take a question form. The researcher must pay attention to ensure that the words used in the statement are appropriate and non-ambiguous as well as not vague. In doing so, the researcher sets a clear idea on what the focus of the research is. The statement must be concise and yet explanatory enough to give some kind of direction to the research process. Aims and objectives. Once the researcher has stated the research problem, they must specify the aims and objectives of conducting the research. The aim of a particular research involves contributing to a debate or academic thinking on the subject, research on the topic, or action-oriented research aimed towards policy or such kind of intervention. Objectives, on the other hand, are more specific than aims and focus specifically on the research questions and the research problem. The objectives must be formulated clearly and should be to the point. In case there are multiple research objectives, it is important to ensure that all of them are related to each other in some way. These objectives should fall under the larger purview of the aim of the research. Introduction and background. While the researcher may be abreast about the research topic being studied, the same cannot be said about others. Hence, it is important to provide a concise summary about the background of the topic. This will introduce the topic to the audience. Providing this foundation will also assist in explaining the significance of the research topic. The introduction should not be too lengthy, but must deliver the base for which the rest of the proposal will stand. The introduction should not aim to review the literature. Rather, it should provide the logical sequencing for taking the proposal forward. Significance. It is crucial to explain the significance of conducting a particular research. This provides the utility of the research. The researcher must be able to defend and explain how this particular work would add to the existing body of knowledge. In several cases, the research would be aiming to refine work existing in a particular field or provide an extension or in-depth analysis of the existing literature. A strong, well thought of significance is vital in explaining the implication the research would have on a particular area of study. This will also help in explaining the relevance of the research and the benefits it will provide to tackling a problem. The significance should attempt to connect the objectives of the research to the data collected and justify them. Literature review. Literature reviews are a vital part of the research proposal. By having a thorough understanding of the existing literature in a particular field, the researcher is able to justify the relevance and often the novelty of the study he or she is undertaking. As effective research is based on existing knowledge, an exhaustive literature review allows one to justify the need for undertaking a particular research and explain how it will add to the existing body of knowledge. This will also ensure that there is novelty in the work done and may also provide useful hypotheses or suggestions for the research. The literature review is crucial in establishing how the proposed study can be located in relation to present knowledge and practice. It is not important to quote or mention every piece of literature existing in the field, but one should concentrate on the relevant studies. It is worth noting that the literature reviews are not merely concise summaries of the already published work. Rather, they could work as arguments to justify the significance of the research in question. In a quantitative research design, the literature review often aids the researcher with suitable theories which could be utilized to strengthen the study. In a qualitative design, it may also be used to sharpen the focus of the study and will aid in reinforcing the design of the research. The search for related literature is valuable in defining the problem, recognizing significance, suggesting promising data gathering services, appropriate study design, and for other sources of data. Research methodology. Based on the research design which is being employed by the researcher, there are a number of methods to collect data. Primarily, the methodology is concerned with three major components, namely subjects, procedures, and data analysis. Subjects. The selection of a sample is a crucial step in any kind of research. A number of variables are often involved and must be taken into account to ensure that there is a representative sample. The researcher will also have to plan how and when they would contact their samples. The researcher must justify the number of participants in the sample, the variables like education, qualification, gender, etc., which are taken into account, and also how these are important for the research. Procedures. The methods of data collection should also be thoroughly looked into. This involves explaining how and what kind of data will be collected, what kind of data collecting devices will be used, and how each of these processes will be undertaken. Data analysis. The researcher must carefully design how he or she plans to utilize the data that will be collected and also how this specific data will be used to justify the aims and objectives of the research. Time frame. Almost all researches are conducted while keeping a particular time frame in mind. Since a research project involves a number of steps, it is crucial to systematically plan ahead how much time each step will take. Carefully planning these steps will allow the researcher to divide and devote time as demanded for by each stage and allow the research to progress in a systematic and disciplined manner. Budget. Proposed budgets constitute an extremely significant requirement of any research activity. It should include clear-cut allocation of important heads under research. Certain areas are kept flexible to the point that only the upper limit of the cost estimation is presented to ensure brevity and to incorporate last-minute changes in the expenditure. Anticipated problems. A good proposal should not only be concerned with the positives, but must also try to calculate the problems or hurdles which may come up during the course of the research. There could be certain limitations and barriers which may affect the research, such as access to person or organization, confidential data, resource constraints, language barriers, etc. These factors must be calculated as much as possible, and alternatives must be planned or thought of if these hamper with the research. Ethical concerns. Most researches include human participation in one form or the other. It is imperative that the research being undertaken follows all ethical considerations, especially with regard to data collection and methods of data collection. The researcher must carefully plan and justify how the ethical parameters will be maintained. These include collecting the participants' consent for the research, maintenance of participants' autonomy, handling of sensitive data, assurance of confidentiality, among others. Expected outcome or results. It is critical to aim for a kind of outcome or conclusion from the research activity. The conclusion should be linked to the objectives discussed earlier in the paper. Other components. Additionally, a proposal may also include research problems and a research question. A research problem is a definite or clear expression about an area of concern, a condition to be improved upon, a difficulty to be eliminated, or a troubling question that exists in scholarly literature, in theory, or within existing practice that points to a need for meaningful understanding and deliberate investigation. After the researcher has identified the research problem, then they may begin to ask the crucial questions pertaining to the area of the research. These research questions will then be narrowed down and clarified to make the statement of the problem or even frame the hypothesis if a hypothesis is involved. When working on the research questions, the following characteristics must be taken into account. Is the research question clear? Is it researchable? Does it hold some link with existing theory and literature? Is it novel? Does it even in a small way add something new to the existing body of knowledge? If dealing with multiple research questions, ensure that they are all linked to each other in some way or the other. Ensure that the questions are neither too broad, keeping time and other resources in mind, nor too narrow, should make some kind of contribution to the area of study. Operational definitions. In order to ensure that terms or phrases crucial to the research are not misinterpreted, the researcher must provide operational definitions, that is, a clear-cut definition on how a term or variable is used in the particular research. This leaves no scope for ambiguity or misinterpretation in a particular study. These also assist the reader or audience to understand the variables of the study in an appropriate way. Hypothesis. A research hypothesis is a tentative answer to a question. The hypothesis is formulated before the data collection begins in order to ensure that the research is not biased. Hypotheses are framed on the basis of already existing research and theory. They are an educated guess the researcher makes, which he or she tries to prove through the research being undertaken. Thank you for watching the presentation.